What are some of the biggest operational and leadership challenges you see organizations dealing with today?
I think that's a very, very common mistake. Questions like,
What is the first practical step you would advise them to take given your extensive experience?
and the third thing, and that's really, really important when you have to start adopting something, is
What mistakes do you see organizations commonly making when they begin exploring AI or advanced technologies?
launching a new campaign. The first question was always think about the measurable outcome.
Tell me about the potential at an enterprise level.
This is a big challenge.
So I think CX leaders are absolutely challenged with.
That's a great question. Things move so fast. So my practical advice is
So, hello everyone. Welcome to Enterprise AI by Colbotics, a conversation series where we speak with enterprise leaders about how they are thinking about AI and how AI adoption is shaping real world enterprise operations. I am Ali Merchant, and today I am joined by Einat Weiss. Einat brings deep experience in enterprise technology and go to market leadership, including her time as Chief Marketing Officer at NICE, working closely with the large global enterprises on digital transformation and AI driven platforms. Einat, it is great to have you here. Thank you for joining us today.
Of course, it's a pleasure to be here, and great. I'm looking forward to having this conversation with you.
Likewise. So, to start, for those who may not be familiar with your background, can you share a bit about your journey in enterprise technology and the kind of work you have focused on across your roles?
Yes, of course. So in the last few decades, I've been actually in the intersection between technology and go-to-market. I spent half of my career actually in product, making sure that enterprise software companies bring the right product to the market the right way. And then the second half in marketing, really, again, making sure that we take very complicated advanced technology concepts and translate them into category-leading positioning. Most recently, I was the Chief Marketing Officer, as you said, of NICE, where I worked very, very closely with the leadership team on making company NICE a category leader, and specifically transforming it into an AI leader, which I think is very relevant for our conversation today.
Great, what a great journey. So let's dive right into it, right? So tell me, having worked closely with large global enterprises, what are some of the biggest operational and leadership challenges you see organizations dealing with today?
So I'll give you my perspective, and I'm also happy to hear, of course, from you, from what you see with your customers and potential customers. But I think that essentially what we see today is tension between speed and risk. Many organizations, enterprises, are built to create, to be very risk averse, right? To manage risk. And now they're actually asked to run two businesses in parallel. One that is risk averse, and one that is extremely, extremely fast with adoption of AI. So I think that creates a lot of friction. The second is sometimes organizations look at AI as a technology project, but really it's more of a business transformation. It's a business decision, right? And you have to create the right organizational alignment behind it. The third thing that I see has to do really with talent. It is becoming very, very difficult, or I would say differently. A lot of leaders have to take fresh look at the talent that they have in their organization, and also at the way they hire talent from the outside, and make sure that they have the right people who can push them forward rather than people who are actually holding them back And I think that requires some realignment from a lot of leaders.
Oh, absolutely. I think we have similar experience that organizations or it is they're built to be a little more risk averse, but that is not an option anymore because
Yeah.
AI is not just a cost efficiency play anymore. It's also highly impacts the end customer experience, and there is no way that of kind of putting this for later on. So yeah, absolutely concur the thought that I think it organizations, enterprises will have to change and really put their best foot forward and just embrace this thing as soon as possible. In fact, I was just looking at one study where they were showing that financial enterprises and healthcare organizations, which traditionally did the transformation was slower, are this time the ones who are leading it, which was very surprising because they are highly regulated, right?
Yeah.
So I think times are changing, numbers are changing. I think everything is very new, and I think we just have to accept it.
I agree.
Great.
100%.
So, from a senior leadership perspective, when you think about technologies like AI, tell me what excites you most. Tell me about the potential at an enterprise level, and what concerns do you naturally think will come up?
So I think the exciting part is divided into two. I will start, you and I have both been in the CX market for so long, and we've seen so many technology trends come and go, and some of them change the industry materially, and some of them maybe not so much. AI, of course, is creating a huge shift. It reduces friction with customers. It does help frontline decision making in the moment just so much better and with so much more context. So, and also, of course, there is the whole automation aspect of it, just minimizing the behind the scenes work of summarizing and so forth, but or the invisible work, right, of the contact center frontline and back office employees. So from that perspective, it really redefines our industry. But there's a very, very big impact in general on employees, regardless of their profession or being a part of the CX side of the house. If you think about it, it creates kind of a self-service approach for anything that has to do with corporate services, right, internally. So many things that you had to go and ask for, like design, in many cases, some sort of content creation, reviews, and so forth. Any employee has access to AI tools that can help them do that on their own. Of course, there's always the risk of data garbage and so forth, but it creates much more independence for a lot of just in general employees, right, in enterprises to do things differently, to do it faster, and to do things on their own that they really weren't trained for or didn't think they have the skills to do. So this is what excites me personally. In terms of concerns, AI creates in some ways an illusion of progress. So it's very, very easy to build demos, to build proof of concept, to take it kind of 60% of where things need to be. But really operationalizing it at scale with the right security and compliance measurements, that takes much more effort. And I think that at the end of the day, it's our role, right, to make sure that senior enterprise buyers know the difference between a demo and something that really works.
I think you spoke like a true experienced leader, I think in SaaS, anyways, CX leaders have had so many bad experiences. And now, as you rightly mentioned, with the avenue of AI, it is even easier to do that. So I think CX leaders are absolutely challenged with, tasks to really filter out the ones, as you rightly mentioned, who can actually do it. And I think, if I have to share my 2 cents to it, the best way to do that is, see who stands behind their product. If they say that from day one you have to sign a contract, if you have to bear the implementation charges before, and if they say that, I think gone are the times, in my at least opinion, that you do like a 2-year, 1-year, 3-year contract. There should be this flexibility to actually see that with every organization being unique, how does it play? Sometimes it's not even the product is bad, it's just not the right fit, I think, from a product and cultural standpoint. So I think, you spoke like a true experienced leader, that this is a big concern. And yeah, on the opportunity side, I think it is much easier for enterprises to, meaning, I think one of the largest challenges we have seen with enterprises is moving fast enough. I think, that is one big piece. What I have been recently observing, it is kind of helping out with. Like contracts that used to take so much time before are, getting done very quickly. I think, so yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. So tell me this now, that from your own experience and observations that you have had so far across enterprises, I think this is a very important part, that what mistakes do you see organizations commonly making when they begin exploring AI or advanced technologies?
Yeah, so I referred to it a little bit earlier about treating AI as technology. I think that's a very, very common mistake. Questions like, what can I do with AI, right? Or even worse sometimes, how much money can I save for that specific department, right? There needs to be a much, much different approach to it. It needs to start with the outcome that one is trying to achieve, defining those, look at areas where there's major friction that AI can really solve. So I think the question should really be, where can I achieve massive scale by using AI versus how do I use it or how much money it can save? I think that's really one. The second one is also, in many cases, organizations are getting into this pilot twilight zone, right? Trying multiple pilots, probably maybe too much, and getting stuck maybe at that phase instead of taking one workflow or area where it can really bring a lot of value and go all the way, and then it kind of stays in the pilot area, and then there's the whole vicious cycle of we don't see enough value from AI and moving back to the next pilot. And the last one is sometimes underestimating data ready. At the end of the day, AI doesn't magically fix things, and the data is not where it needs to be. At the end of the day, you're just automating inconsistency. And I think it's really important to understand that AI is not solving a point problem, right? It's creating a whole new operating model, and the data has to be ready for that.
Absolutely. I think, data is the core of actually AI. I think it's as good as saying that these AI, we are in the era of AI agents and, working in symphony with your human agents. Your human agents only are as good as your training is. And I think same applies to your AI agents. They're only as good as the training or the access to that data. So I think, that's very, very core to what it is. I think one other thing what we have observed with, our deployments across CX is a lot of times leaders try to start with the most complex ones, where and I think it's like jumping to the last stage. What we have observed, what really works is that if you do start with simple repeatable workflows, it is easier to prove value, not just to all the stakeholders, to your leaders, to your agents as well, because your leaders see how it is actually creating value, not just from a saving cost but also from a CSAT improvement perspective, and then also from the agents seeing that okay, they can now focus on much more valuable, meaningful work. So yeah, that's I think how we are looking at it.
I think there may be another thing that I want to add, and you and I had conversations about it offline, and that has to do with trust. I think many enterprises build their reputation for years, right? Creating trust with their customers. I think addressing the trust issue when it comes to AI, it may be compliance or other, these topics need to be addressed very, very early on when the process is being architected versus backpedaling at the end to after issues have already occurred.
No, absolutely. I think that's again a very great point. This is one big change that we have seen early on. Wherever we deployed any product with a, come within an enterprise, especially on the CX side, I think they would look at the differentiators first. They would look at what challenges they can solve, and then eventually they'll pass it on to security, for compliance and stuff. It was maybe third, fourth, fifth, depending on the company or the enterprise, the hierarchy or the chronology of this concern. And a lot of conversations that we are having right now, it comes right at the beginning, which initially when we started off with conversational AI and AI agents and for CX, it was a little surprising because for like 17 years you have always talked about this later on, but I think it is at the forefront right now, and I think it is quite justifiable given how this actually, as you rightly said, changes the entire operations. It's not like one piece of it. From your entire operations to customer experience, everything is affected with this. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. All right, so looking ahead, let's say 2 years or maybe 3 years, right? How do you see AI influencing enterprise operations overall, particularly in areas like customer experience, decision making, execution for that matter of fact?
Yeah, so first of all, I really think that the big winners of AI will be the ones that will be able to redesign their entire operating model around AI and not just add it as an add-on feature. When it comes to CX, I think that AI will be really a part of the front-line decision-making, and not just a supporting tool, but really something that can drive decisions, make decisions, and take action at the end of the day, again, with a very, very wide personalized context. Again, we talked quite a bit about verticalization and understanding the different nuances between different verticals. So I think AI can bring a lot of value there. And it's going to be a core operating layer inside every enterprise. So definitely supporting the front line, but also I would say compressing work in many, many other areas of the enterprise. I know there's a lot of talk about increasing productivity and replacing people. I think the main value is really going to just be shortening time to market when it comes to products, making processes much more efficient and much faster internally, and really adding the ability to work at greater scale with a hybrid workforce across the board.
Oh, absolutely. I think that is one more important thing. I think that is going to drastically change over the period of time. And I think if you ask me one big thing, one big change when it comes to operations that I've overall, seen with, especially on the customer experience side, or decision making or execution. I think, yeah, rightly mentioned that, it just increases the speed to, or at least the avenue is there for enterprises to, increase the speed as we earlier as well discussed. I think, yeah. So, all right then. If tell me this, that if according to your perspective, if a senior leader is listening today, is listening to us today, and thinking about AI, but obviously we all come across this conversation that most of them, a lot of them, if not most, are really overwhelmed or unsure, like where to start actually. So, what is the first practical step you would advise them to take given your extensive experience?
So I'll tell you two things, and again, I'm, as always, very, very intrigued to hear your opinion as well, as a founder. So first of all, it's really important to choose a business critical workflow that you can really transform. That's one. But there are three things that are very, very critical. You have to define the outcome of what you want to achieve. You have to define the baseline, and you have to assign an owner. More often than not, when a pilot starts and there is no clear owner, as I said earlier, these projects go nowhere. So these are really, really important. But there's another thing that I feel is an overarching motion, I would say, when it comes to being successful with AI today, and that's really being curious and inquisitive. Things move so fast. Mm-hmm. In any domain, and regardless of where you lead in product, in sales, in go-to-market, you have to be on top of the AI transformations and innovations that are going on around you. You can't wait for information to come to you. If you want to lead the organization in today's space, you have to be the one with the most knowledge and understanding and always on top of the most recent developments in this area. And I think this is a big challenge that everybody in all levels are going to face.
Makes sense. But, share your experiences. Maybe I'm sure you would have you have guided many people how to navigate stakeholders within the organization. I think getting approvals, right? Sometimes that is a very complex process. What is your practical ground level advice that this is how you manage your stakeholders that you report to? This is how you manage the stakeholders that report into you, and then there is this board that sits outside. What are your practical advices there?
So my practical advice is when you're considering adopting an AI tool, first of all, if you have to then go and get approval from your executives, at the end of the day, you have to show two things. You have to show how you're going to create massive scale. So if we take things from my world as a CMO, if we're talking, for example, about marketing automation, the ability to do things much, much faster in a much, much more efficient way, that's key, just to show how you're creating more scale. I think that the second thing is, of course, to show some sort of ROI. So obviously, what types of savings are going to be driven from that? And the third thing, and that's really, really important when you have to start adopting something, is how secure is the tool that you're using. So again, even as a marketer, I had to understand how data is going to be used, how it is going to be exposed, what type of risks are we really taking, and so forth. So this is something that any leader should be versed with. When it comes to communicating with your employees, I think it's sometimes tricky because in many, many cases, you're actually approaching leaders to take on a project where they may feel that they are going to be replaced. So I think making sure that there is clarity about the goals of why we're implementing this and really highlighting sales versus cost cutting, I think is good.
I think that's great advice. And I think this last section we tend to, really ask some, ground level advices, because this is the section which we are actually having this podcast for, that how do leaders, really navigate this. As you rightly mentioned, that there is, the world is changing very quickly, the speed is very high. Uh, tell us, what are your, so basically it means you have to gain a lot of knowledge, understanding within all this noise, right? You have books coming out, you have, papers, you have videos, podcasts like ours. What is your hack? How did you do it for so many years? I mean, 17, years of CX transformation you have driven. And, I have come to really appreciate, I have a 3-year-old daughter, so, I know how I've come to be very empathetic, or, very cognizant of the fact that being a woman, it is challenging sometimes to grow. So tell us your hack, how you gained that knowledge, and cut through the noise and really, learned what was required and how you moved things forward.
So say two things. One, in life and in work, I think that it's really important to have a very clear why, right? And this is always when I had conversations with my team about launching a new campaign. The first question was always, why are we doing it? What is our vision, right? And I think that also goes to just life coaching that I would give my kids, and also people that I've been working with. People sometimes think about, hey, I want a promotion. So my first question would be really why. Really be honest with your goals in business and in life. And the second thing is always think about the measurable outcome. If you can define what it is, whether, again, it's a new initiative, whether it's implementing a new tool, what do you want to achieve? Is it 10% increase in your pipeline? Is it really penetrating more high-end customers? So having that very measurable goal in front of you really helps in directing what you do, how you do it, and then also helps you course correct over time if you see that things are maybe not going as well as you thought they would, or if maybe you have amazing results, you can also kind of check that versus that measurable goal. But I think, again, both in personal life and in business, these are two things that for me were always the North Star.
Makes sense. And what are your, how do you, access, or how do you consume new knowledge? Through podcasts, through, paper? How do you kind of narrow that part down?
Yeah, it's that's a great question, because the real answer is all of the above. I sometimes feel that hooks of nuggets or of knowledge comes also from just conversations that I have with people from different verticals and different industries, and sometimes hearing someone speak about what their challenges are in cybersecurity is a hook to think about how we can do things better also in other industries. So I listen to podcasts, I consume a lot of information. I do use a lot of AI tools to help me synthesize sometimes this information and summarize it, admittedly. But it's really a lot of just always looking at what's new, what's coming, and just consuming this, yes.
Great. Last question from my side. Being, a girl's father, I tend to ask this to every successful woman out there, that, as I just mentioned a few minutes back, right, it's tough. We have to accept it, and you are such an inspiration. You became the CMO of one of the best CCaaS or CX companies out there, right? Any advice for female or women leaders as to how they should navigate this and kind of get to the place and become an inspiration like you at some point of time?
First of all, thank you. I didn't think of myself as that, but I'll say two things. One, I'll give you an advice as a father of female daughters. First of all, demand from them what you would from a son. I do see a lot of parents who tend to be maybe softer with their daughters, or kind of, be okay with them maybe not going all the way or trying their hardest. The second is encourage them to take on science majors, so have it be math, physics, biology, anything else. There is also a tendency sometimes to not be as adamant about that as one would be with their son. The other one, I would say for women, I always say, ask that question, say what you want to say. In many ways, always think about what would your male colleagues do in this situation. Would they think 10 times before they say something in a meeting? Would they, just process so much before they ask a question? So just be daring, state your opinion, speak up, and really don't hesitate so much. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be out there and have your voice heard. And the other thing is, I always say, don't expect any special treatment because you're a woman. Just see yourself as a peer, and then we'll be a peer. That's kind of my piece of advice.
I think that's some great advice, and I think it is very reassuring as well, because my wife and my mother, they are I tell them that I don't see a difference between a girl and boy, and the biggest, and I always as some great person I said, judge from actions and not words, right?
Yeah,
so my actions
exactly.
are aligned with that, meaning I just don't look at it from that lens and just treat her that way. I think it will prepare her for the real world out there, where if not equally, they might have to have much more difficult, but I think whatever best I can do. So I think this is very reassuring. I can go home today and tell my wife that, see, such a inspiring and successful person, woman, has told me this. I think you should think about it. But yeah, she's very, very much, aligned. We are on the same page, and we're doing, I think we're doing our best over there. But that being said, thank you so much for sharing all this knowledge so transparently. It was great. I'm sure, it will be very helpful to leaders in general, and, obviously women, on how they can navigate this fast-paced change that we are witnessing right now. Once again, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
It was nice having you.
Thank you.